and I run data commercialization and programmatic sales strategy at Meredith.
Hi, and I'm Julie Bernard. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Verve.
So we had a really interesting discussion about GDPR, not only what brands and publishers and agencies and platforms need to think about as we continue on in our effort to ensure that we're all compliant for GDPR. But I think we accomplished a lot in a short time period. Certainly things we discussed as it relates to the tech stack, right? Things that we know that are in place today across many publishers, many brands already have a DMP, CRM. They have relationships with DSPs, but certainly some interesting conversations as it related to customer data platforms, right? And where customer data platforms play a role today. But also things like how do we look at policy as a way of incorporating that into our tech stack? And so do we have both a privacy policy and a data policy? Are those policies socialized across the organization? Is there clear communication? Can everybody in the organization know what to do if that policy is breached? So some good conversation across the board there.
And from a platform perspective, with the different technologies to support companies to be compliant with GDPR, it was interesting that it wasn't always just a traditional tech stack component, that there are also conversations about brands and companies and publishers looking for technologies that help them with the documentation of the processes for data flows and being able to demonstrate their compliance. And so there's a whole new body of platforms that are coming to bear in businesses to be implemented to be compliant with GDPR. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And a lot of work that everybody is working on, but dominantly on the publisher side.
Yeah, you brought up a good point, right? Which is it's not just the publishers who have responsibility. This is part of the entire ecosystem.
Right.
And as a publisher, it was good to hear that.
Yeah.
So thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
And I think some of the interesting points at the end there, right? Well, we really started to get into the ethics piece of this, and could this potentially harm the consumer in any way? There's some interesting comments there, right?
Yeah, I think so much of what all of us are doing as organizations is we are embracing it. It's happening on May 25th, whether or not we want it to, and yet there still is a darkness to the conversation that it's really going to bring more harm, both to the consumer as well as to businesses than benefits. And I think some of that comes from the early stages of education that many people throughout organizations are really in right now. I think a lot of the privacy teams, the legal teams, the engineering teams, they're all very close to it because they've already started a lot of the activities that they need to be embracing from a process, org, technology perspective to be compliant. And now there's still an opportunity before May 25th to get that message out there to the rest of our organizations so that they feel comfortable with it. And what's happening with GDPR is it's going to be coming to the US as well. And so I thought there was some interesting conversation also about the implications for GDPR and that type of a regulatory or legislative environment here in the United States and broader in North America also.
One of the interesting comments that I heard was, and a number of folks I think agree that this could have some significant impact, is that it's the small guy actually, right, that's going to really be harmed by this regulation. That in fact, if you look at the walled gardens, if we look at Amazon, Facebook, et cetera, that if there's a fine associated there, they'll pay it off and they'll move forward, right? But it's some of the smaller companies that can potentially struggle.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting because they see the need to have a partner ecosystem to help them be compliant because they can't do it on their own, right? They really just need to focus on what their business is and what their core offering is. And so really thinking about that connected ecosystem of collaborative partners I thought was a great message for really organizations large and small. Yeah. Particularly because it was interesting from a data standpoint, and this would really be I think the last thing, GDPR is just the beginning. There are new and emerging data being invented every single day. We think about device IDs potentially becoming definitions of personally identifiable information and the location of devices, but even more than that, the implications of voice and listening and different experiences with AR and VR and facial recognition and biometrics and all of these different things. So I think GDPR is just the beginning, and as long as we as an industry stay committed to transparency, control, and value, we really should all be okay.